Today's video was selected for you by my gorgeous patrons, so thank you very much to them for making this selection. And if you would like to be involved in future video polls and also have access to the Discord, the one card riff video every month and other privileges as well, check out the tiers. I will leave all the information down below. Hey there, my heavenly fireflies. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me for an episode of Tea and Tarot. Tea and Tarot is an ongoing series on my channel, and basically during an episode of Tea and Tarot, I sip tea and I sling cards, because that's basically two of the things I love to do more than anything else in this world. I love to do them together, and I love to do them with you and for you. So thank you for joining me. I hope that you really get something from this. It's interesting because last time I did a Tea and Tarot episode, I'm pretty sure it was the patrons that chose the subject then as well, and what they chose then was very serious. It was an episode about how the planet is a difficult, dangerous and scary and sad place to be, and how do we get some tarot insight to help us to deal with that and cope with everything difficult that is going on in the world, and think about what we want to do about it and how we can keep ourselves safe and stable throughout that process of acting on whatever it is we feel is going wrong that we want to deal with. So it was very heavy. It was very big stuff. This time I feel like they've taken us in the total opposite direction, and they've been kind to us. The last episode was definitely kindly as well. What a great thing to look at with the cards. But this time we're looking at how to make life shimmery, iconic, cinematic, epic, magical, you know, all of that stuff. In fact, I'll read you what I wrote when I put this option in the poll. I put, so if this one was to be chosen, I put that we would discover how to have a more enchanting, cinematic and uplifting life filled with daily wonder. I will draw cards to offer advice on elevating the mundane into the star-encrusted fantasy realms. So that, my darlings, is what is going on today. That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be looking at how can we lift it? How can we have the most beautiful life possible? What can the cards tell us about how to really have a more inspiring, beauteous, sumptuous, delicious experience in this life? And I love the fact that we're going to be diving into that. So I'm very, very excited for this one. Interestingly enough, I'm not really the type of reader that does very often kind of like a general vibe check. I really like the cards to be as specific as possible. You know, I want to know what kind of medicine I'm looking for from tarot. And so I very rarely pick up a deck for anyone else or for myself and just say, we're just going to see what comes up. You know, I like to have a specific subject in mind and something that I'm really shooting for, you know. But the closest that I get in my personal tarot practice to a general vibe check is something of this nature. Just like, how can I make it fucking pop? How can I make it bubble and fizz? How can I give myself access to more delicious, divine feeling and sacred experience, basically? So that's the closest I would get to not really having, I guess, a really serious, specific purpose, but more just like, how do I live the good life? You know, how can I make it be all that I want it to be and really enjoy life more? So it's very nice for me that I get to do this with all of you, and I'm definitely going to take these messages and this advice on board. Just to bear in mind, I know I always say this, it's a really important disclaimer, my darlings, so listen up, okay? Listen up, listen in. This is in no way a tailored reading for any one individual person, not even for me. This is going to be general in the sense that, yes, we are looking at something specific, but I'm not doing a tailored one-on-one reading for you. If you want a tailored one-on-one experience where I understand what is going on with you and how you can best lean into the advice from tarot, you can grab a personalized one-on-one reading with me over at my online store. I'm not going to spend too long talking about it, but just to say that I have a plethora of different reading options available for all kinds of different things, from work and career stuff to love and relationship stuff, self-love, shadow work, all kinds of things. You'll find an overwhelmingly exciting amount of different templates on there for spread designs, or you can book a custom design. And I want to let you know, at the time of filming this, my darlings, there is a sale on 10 different readings over at my online store. I'm going to leave the link to the sale section below. I've put together a collection of 10 readings that are really about making an impact, making a change, and really making things happen. So I've selected 10 of my spread designs that I think are really good for that, and I've put them into the sale section. So go ahead and grab one. The sale will be on for a few more days, maybe possibly possibly a week. I don't know, I'm quite intuitive about my sales. So if you want something on a budget and you're interested in working with me, maybe this will be, who knows, the very first time that you will work with me. Go and head on over there and see what I've got on offer for you. And yeah, that's basically it. Don't forget, not tailored, but basically this is a way that we are all going to be able to get into the sumptuous, meaty, divine guidance of the cards, and it will mean what it means to you, okay? Take what resonates, leave the rest. That's what I always say. That's what we're doing here. For this Tea and Tarot episode, I was thinking, what deck do I really want to use? What deck do I want to jump into? And I want it to be a deck that I haven't used for a while, but that I really love, because I don't have the biggest collection of Oracle and Tarot decks, but I am a professional reader, and so I have acquired quite a few over time. So I just thought I want it to be something that I adore and something that I haven't played with for a while. And I decided to go with the Dust to Onyx Tarot. I do not have the box because I turned the box into a jewelry box, so it's over there full of my rings, but this is a sumptuous deck by Courtney Alexander, and I absolutely adore it. It has these beautiful shimmering embossed sections on each of the cards, and the gold that you can see just popping there. Every single card is just absolutely delicious. The tagline for this deck was a melanated tarot deck, and it certainly is that. And it is glorious. Look at this card. Look at this card. Look at it. Oh my life. These are so beautiful. They're so moody. And this is the Tower. This card is the Tower. How fabulous and beautiful is that? There are going to be cutaways for each of the cards that come up in this episode, my darlings. So if you want to take a closer look, you can do. When I'm talking about the card, when I first introduce what each card is, there'll be a cutaway. I'm going to be drinking tea as usual. This time I'm having some elderberry and echinacea. I'm not going to drink any yet because, as usual, it's piping hot. I've made it to take me through this episode. So I'll have some when it's nice and cool, but grab a beverage yourself. Make sure that you have something to wet your whistle with while we go through and see what the cards have to say to us and what messages are going to come up and how we can apply Tarot's wisdom to our lives to make them as sumptuous and golden and gorgeous as we possibly can. Well, my darlings, my tea is now cool enough to drink because I just took a call from a friend. A friend in need is a friend indeed. A friend with weed is better. And if you know that lyric, if you know where it's from, get at me in the comments, and well done, you like good music. Okay, so let's go ahead and discover which card has a message first of all. This deck is a little bit of a fiddle to shuffle at first because it's postcard sized and it's very tough, very, very good cardstock, beautiful cardstock. So I have to shuffle it sideways and I have to let the cards have slightly more time to fall than I would with the average deck. Okay. I'm a bit nervous, but every single card has a message for whatever it is we're posing to it, right? So we must always remember that whatever comes up, even if it's Nine of Swords, even if it's the Tower, whatever it might be, it is answering the question we are posing, which in this episode is, how can we have a more sumptuous, delicious, epic, enchanting life? The first card to come through to give us some guidance is Ten of Staffs, aka Ten of Wands. What an energetic, joyous, beautiful portrayal of Ten of Wands there. Wow. I'm going to take you to the cutaway right now. And you can see that with this particular Ten of Staffs image, it really does look like a dance. It's a joyous, defiant dance. And there are all these different lines going around the staffs and coming out from the center of the body in the middle that really make it look like there is energy moving everywhere in this Ten of Staffs. It's quite different to the image that we're more used to, which is somebody carrying the staffs on their back in a very sort of difficult, rather arduous looking way. This is totally different. This Ten of Staffs is looking at this joyous, resisting, gorgeous dance outward, and the energy is exploding from this Ten of Staffs image. So there's a lot to think about here. There's a lot to dive into when it comes to how to live the most sumptuous and enchanting life possible. One thing about Ten of Staffs, aka Ten of Wands, that I really sincerely really love is that, yes, it is an image of responsibility. It is an image of using your power, applying your potency to the task that you're trying to complete. It is about responsibility, and it is about driving towards success. And very often there is a sense of burden or a sense of really hard work in that success. But the thing that I love about the card is that it's also about harvest. It's about achievement. It's about that last big push to apply our fire to what it is that we're doing and actually get the result, actually reach the finish line. And yes, there is going to be some striving in that, but there's also deep desiring in that. There's a belief that yes, we can do it. And yes, the time to do it is now. Let's push, let's go for it. And so the way that this makes me think about how we can have a sumptuous, enchanting life, my darlings, is energy management. I talk about energy management a lot. I think about it a lot in my life, and I talk about it a lot with my clients. The idea that when you have the fire, you should harness it and use it. And when you don't have the fire, you shouldn't force it. You shouldn't make yourself. You shouldn't pretend. You should rest. So this is really, I think, about that dance between action and rest, and knowing that we can have a more sumptuous, enchanting, shimmering life if we are honest with ourselves about when we really have the fire to devote to something and we're going to use it. We're not going to waste it. We're not going to piss it up the wall. We're not going to use it on distractions and idle things that don't make sense. We're going to really power it towards what we want to do. And then when we are devoid of fire, or we need to wait and we need to kindle our fire, we need to nurture ourselves, we need to be in self-care, we're going to let ourselves do that. We're not going to push ourselves to the point of burnout. We're going to say, oh, I'm low on flames. I need to get some fuel for my flames. I need to come back to this when I've had some time to relax and some time to regroup and regenerate my energy. So it's really deciding, whereabouts am I at the moment? Am I in a state where I do have actually the fire, the energy, the vision, the desire, but I'm not using it, and I need to be applying it better, and I need to believe in myself. I need to believe I can do that. Or am I in a state where I've used a lot of fire, I've applied a lot of fire, and now I really need to relax. I need to calm down. I need to de-stress. I need to breathe, and I need to be in a state of stillness. We get to make that decision. That is a lot of what Ten of Staffs is about. It's about taking responsibility for your tasks, but also taking responsibility for managing the energy that you're using to complete those tasks, and really figuring out, am I forcing myself to fire on all cylinders all the time? Or conversely, am I not firing on any cylinders any of the time? Even when I have the fire, even when I have the ability, am I not using that ability strategically? Am I not committing to the projects I really, really want to complete? So there's a moment of honesty here that we have to have with ourselves about that. Now, for me, when I look at Ten of Staffs, I think about determination. I think about the push towards success. I think about the application of fire, and that means will, desire, vision. I think about the application of it and really what that will glean for me and how good that will feel. But I also do think about burden. I think about stress. I think about weight. I think about everything that I may have taken on, everything that life is making me deal with and come to and approach. And I think about, oh, wow, there's also that sense of going overboard with pushing and not taking enough rest because you don't feel you deserve to, because you're worried that if you rest, you will lose momentum completely and everything will stop and you'll fail. So that's really what I'm thinking about when it comes to leading the most sumptuous life. When you've got your fire in hand, use it. Fucking use it. Don't waste it. And when you are low on fire, appreciate that, respect that within yourself, respect that within your body, and do something to regenerate that fire. This card, Ten of Staffs, is making me have a moment of honesty with myself. And I want to share that honesty with you because that's what Tea and Tarot is all about, okay? I'm going to be really, really blunt about what is going on inside of me and what this card coming up has made me think of. I'm thinking about times when I absolutely have the fire to apply to the thing that I most want to do. And those times specifically where I do not do that. And then I go to sleep regretful. I know that I had some energy. I know that I had some capability. I know that I had things I wanted to achieve. And I know that those things were manageable. They were realistic. I could have done them, but I didn't. I wasted that fire. And a lot of the way that my fire is wasted is in two ways. The first way is executive dysfunction, the inability I feel that I have sometimes to prioritize, to decide what is going to happen next and then what is going to happen after that. A lot of the way that my life could be more enchanting and more fizzy and more exciting and more enjoyable is if I would really step up to making a list of responsibilities a bit more often. I've been a bit off with that in the last few months. I haven't sat down. I've meant to. There have been some mornings where I've really meant to sit down and just for 5 minutes decide what are going to be my top 3 priorities. What do I really need to get done? And I'm not saying that I've been a total failure on things like that. I'm not saying that, but there have definitely been some times where I've woken up. I know that I've got the piss and vinegar. I know that I've got a bit of time where I need to apply myself to different things. And I know I could get at least something over the finish line, but I've been distracted. I've been in escapism. I have been looking at far too many things on my phone. I have been not only idly scrolling on my phone at times, but also going into a few little rabbit holes of research here and there, when I know damn well that what I should do is, if I want to research something, if I want to know more about something, I should like write it down. I should say, oh, that's something that I want to research. I'm going to write that down. I'm going to do it later on, you know, when I'm just sat relaxing, or maybe I'll do it on the weekend, but I don't. Instead, I let my fire be led in directions where I'm not going to get what I want out of the day. And then I go to bed later and I'm like, oh, there was that time and that energy when I could have done that thing. I could have, you know, whatever it is I wanted to do, whatever it is I may have needed to do, but I didn't. Basically, what I'm talking about is a lack of discipline with my fire, okay? So it's executive dysfunction, which is, you know, being unable to figure out what needs to get done. And then it's also wastefulness and distraction, letting the distraction take me. So when I'm thinking about 10 of Staffs being, how can I, you know, enrich my life? I'm thinking very distinctly, when you've got the fire, when your mind is alive, when you've got something to give, stop for a second and decide, how am I harnessing this fucking fire? Because if I don't harness it and use it, it's going to harness and use me via whatever distraction is coming in, whatever shiny thing I'm looking at that I go, oh, I need to read an article about that. Oh, I really must watch the rest of this video. It's so interesting. And then there's others on YouTube that it's recommending I should watch them too, or whatever. You know, really sort of, I guess, zoning out sometimes when I don't need to. I would far rather know that I'd applied myself, even if it's only gently. I know that my mind is awake. I know that my energy is on point. It is, and I could be doing something. Now, let's talk a little bit about when you need to do something, when you need to do some chores, when you want to finish a creative project, when you want to use your time in a way that you'll be pleased with. You know, you want to go for a walk, you want to, whatever it is you want to do, right? But you're falling into distraction, you're falling into rabbit holes, you're falling into laziness. How can you make whatever it is you want to do more sumptuous? In my one card riff video on Patreon this month, I talked about bringing romance into your everyday life, making things romantic. You know, whenever I've got tasks that I need to achieve in my flat, like the washing up, for example, doing paperwork, that kind of thing, doing laundry, whenever I'm resisting it, I always put on a kimono, burn some incense or a scented candle or something, put some music on, you know, and I walk around and I do the task as though I'm in a movie, right? Like I've kind of brought everything up a level. So yes, it might be a task that I consider to be like prosaic, mundane, everyday, not really what I want to do with my time, but I've lifted it. I've given it the glamour, you know, I'm doing it in a way that makes it more interesting or different or dynamic. How can you do that when it's something that you know you're avoiding and you've got the fire for it, but you are mismanaging your fire? How can you make the task you want to achieve more sumptuous, more delicious, more delightful, so you can get those wands up the hill, but it feels like something that is cinematic and lovely to do, rather than something that is just a drag and a burden. And before I end with this card, I want to talk about that other thing, okay? 10 of Staffs is not just about harnessing your fire, pushing for the result, right? It's also about being honest with yourself about when you've been harnessing your fire too much and your fire is dying, you've not been giving it the fuel. And what is the fuel for your fire? It is inspiration and relaxation, okay? If you're working on a creative project and you're pushing yourself so much and you know you're drained, you know you need a break, stop. Look at some inspiration, you know? Like, get some sparks for your mind and your heart so you can keep going. If you've got a block with your creativity, but you're trying to push, stop and go into absorbing inspiration, writing down your ideas, you know, looking around for things that tickle your fancy. And if it's really that, you know, you're pushing too hard with chores, you're pushing too hard with social life, wherever it is you're pushing, ask yourself, when was the last time you relaxed? When was the last time you just chilled out and didn't have anything on the calendar for a little while? I love that card. It's so honest. It's really honest about some practical ways that we can make life more enchanting and really harness the fire. This is about management, good management of your fire, your will, your desire, your energy. And be honest about where you are with that. Let us know down in the comments, where are you? Are you mismanaging and misdirecting a great deal of fire that you could be using to do something you really want to do? Or is it the case that your fire is low, you need a bit of fuel, it's been a while since you just sat and like read your book or had a long lie-in, you know, or just kind of like cleared the schedule for the weekend. Maybe you do a lot of different things on the weekend and you need to just relax. You need to be doing nothing. The decision to do nothing can be a vital decision to do something, which is to recharge those batteries, get that fire back where it needs to be. Okay, that card had a lot for us. That was very energizing to talk about. Let's see what the next card will be for how to have an enchanting, enjoyable, shiny, shimmery, epic life, my darlings. The next card to come through from Dust to ONYX Tarot is, let's have a little look. Oh, Seven of Gourds, aka Seven of Cups. The gourds are cups in this particular deck. So Seven of Gourds is what's come through. I love this card in this particular reading that we're doing about having a sumptuous, epic life. Seven of Gourds. How cool is that? And I'll show you the cutaway now. So basically, each of the gourds has a little head on it, which is the bottle stopper for the gourd. I have actually just tried to have a look who these people are on these bottles, because Courtney Alexander actually uses quite a lot of famous different sort of black celebrities and movers and shakers, etc. So I didn't know whether or not these people are anyone in particular, but it doesn't seem to say in the book and it doesn't seem to say online. But what it does say is that it's a cascade of gourds with a variety of brightly coloured figured heads as the stoppers. They're horn medicine containers, and traditionally they have wooden carved figurehead stoppers to increase the potency of the substances within. So that is why each of these gourds has a head as a stopper. It is to reflect that traditional bottle that is usually made that contains medicine, and the head is the stopper to sort of increase the potency. So I love that for Seven of Gourds. Very, very special imagery there. I must admit though, I do still wonder about these seven faces, because in the court cards for Dust to ONYX, all of the eyes in the court cards are from different people, and you can learn about that in the book, but there doesn't seem to be information about who these people are. I mean, certainly they look like models, but in any event, Seven of Gourds, aka Seven of Cups, what is going on in terms of making your life epic and beautiful and enchanting? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is the waterfall of choices, the beautiful sense that you have so much that you could take from, so many different things you could reach for, so many different things to fall in love with, to set your heart on, to explore, to go deeper into. There's just such a sumptuous cornucopia of different things to choose in this life. And I think what we're really being asked to look at here with Seven of Gourds coming up, aka Seven of Cups, is whereabouts can we give ourselves the beautiful, delicious sense that we have a million different things we could look at, we could read, a million different conversations we could have, a million different possibilities for life and the depth of life, that feeling that there is so much, that we are in abundance in so many different ways. And I love this because very often one of the feelings that comes up when we don't think we're having an exciting and cinematic life is that feeling of lack of choice, that feeling that there's so much we want to reach for, but we can't have because we don't have the time, because we don't have the money, because we don't have the connections, because we don't know the way to go towards the thing that we want. Sometimes it's even because the thing that we want is something we fundamentally can't have. Like maybe we want an ex-partner that we can't be with anymore. We want to go back to living in a place that we've moved away from, you know, all of these different things that we feel we can't reach for or grab in a moment will make us forget the amazing plethora of different things that we can have in the moment, the choices that are there for us to make, the things that are filling our lives with abundance. And so we're really being asked to celebrate the choices we do have, the things that are on offer, our options essentially. And I think this goes across the board, you know. I think it's about options for what to wear and how to accessorize, options for what to say and what not to say, options for what kind of things we want to take on in terms of what we want to learn and what we want to get better at. Definitely options for how to spend our time and how to spend our time well, options for different things we can try, experiments, you know, even options for things that we can make to eat and how we would season those things. I think it goes all the way down to the very, very most basic of daily choices. I just experienced a feeling of wealth in my options when I looked at my collection of teas and I selected this particular tea, the elderflower and echinacea. There were other options I could have leaned into, but I chose this one. And so that feeling that like I have choices about this free time, I have choices about which of these things I'm going to drink, I have choices about the amount of time and energy I can spend on different people and projects, you know. I have the choice to go to bed on time rather than staying up later than I know I should. I have the choice to hydrate myself now in this moment and feel how good and how sumptuous that is for my body. I have the choice to manage my energy, to check out of drama, to not get involved with something that I feel I don't want to give my life force to. I have all of these different ways in which I choose the moves to make, and that's what makes my life what it is. One thing about the 7 of Cups / 7 of Gourds kind of energy is that very often it can represent an overwhelm, you know, when we have too many different choices. We don't know which direction we really want. We're not sure what we most need. And there's so many different avenues that it's kind of like, you know, it's just basically overwhelming, and we end up in stagnation. One thing that I always try and keep in mind that I think does make my life considerably more fizzy and enchanting is that if I don't know which direction to take, if I'm confused, if I'm in need of more information, and so I feel stagnant in a certain life area, I can definitely take some form of action or make some form of choice in another area. And so I try to think about, okay, well, where can I get some movement? Where can I get some satisfaction? If this is basically in a state of stagnation right now, that doesn't mean I need to be in a state of stagnation with every different area of my life. I can definitely reroute my attention to something that I am more certain of. And I do know in that area what the next action could be. So if there's some form of stagnation in some area and you're confused about the choices that you have and what you want to do, don't forget that there are other areas in which you can feel empowered and you can take action and you can make something happen or go towards something that you want. So, you know, life is funny because it's kind of fractured into these different areas: the financial, the social, the creative, the spiritual, etc. And so there are going to be certain areas of life sometimes where we're in a 7 of Gourds kind of state, but it's in the shadow. There's too much. There's really just too many choices. It's a big responsibility to decide where to place your energy, and you don't know yet, and that's okay. But whereabouts is there an area in your life where you can make a strong decision, where you do know what the best course of action is, where you do know what you want and you can make a step towards it right now, today? Empower yourself. Don't worry about where there is analysis paralysis or where you are waiting on an answer, and instead look more towards like, okay, well, this is the thing I know. This is something that I want. This is something that I can pursue, and really redirect your energy there. Some things need to work themselves out, and some things are the areas of life where it's more abundant and you're more sure and you want to reach for something. So if you're stagnant in one area, you can be moving in another area, and it kind of, you know, goes round in a little teacup ride like that. So whereabouts have you been standing over something and agonizing over something that you're not sure about, where there isn't the movement and there isn't the clarity? And how can you reroute that to an area where you know damn well what you can do and what you do want, and you want to actually reinvest the energy there instead and wait for this, you know, confusing part to sort itself out? I think it's really easy whenever we have a decision we need to make or something that we're agonizing over. It's really easy to decide, oh, well, nothing else can happen until I've decided that. I haven't figured that out, so I can't do anything else. And actually, that's an illusion. It's a lie that we tell ourselves. It can be a form of escapism. It can be a way to deal with the fear of getting what we want or failing at getting what we want. So ask yourself, whereabouts are you using that stagnant part as an excuse to say, oh, well, life's just on pause at the moment? Doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to be. If you've been meaning to pick up your instrument, keep learning that language, get back to some messages that you know you've been avoiding or not wanting to spend the energy on, you know that there's some step that you can take to get your foot through a certain door, to get into a certain industry, to open up more forms of community, to help yourself with a physical ailment, you know, some action you can take that's empowered, that you know is going to get you closer to what you want. Take action there and take the credit for having taken the action there. And then you know that there's this stagnant area, there's this confused area. That's okay. You're human. It's okay to have that, but don't use it as an excuse to completely, entirely get off your horse and sit it out, you know, and be on the subs bench while life passes you by. There are times in life when choices are thin on the ground. We feel we don't have the degree of options that we want. We feel very railroaded. We feel very trapped. I think Seven of Gourds can be a card that comes through when we really need to open up our sense of what is on the table. So it's really a little bit of a perspective shift, you know. There are some areas in my life sometimes where I feel very much like my back is against the wall. I really have to, you know, deal with something without having a lot of options or choices. I feel hard done by in that regard. I sometimes go into victimhood mode in that regard at times. And it really helps me to be able to say, but look at all these different options for things I can do elsewhere. Look at this richness of stuff that I have, this richness of connection, this richness of ability to be able to go outside and sit beneath a tree, or, you know, walk through the grass, or, you know, spend some time just meditating and watching the birds. Look at these options I have for different self-care things I can do that don't cost me any money, that I know that I can just allow myself to have, instead of overriding those options and focusing only on where I'm in lack and where I'm frustrated. It's understandable that I want to place some degree of focus on where I'm frustrated, but it can become a little bit obsessive, can't it? We can fixate on it. So I suppose what this card is asking us to do as well is to say, you know, come away from where you feel you're in lack and you're frustrated and something isn't fair and you're stuck in that story. As true as that story may be, when you want to put a bit of fizz into your reality, look at where the options are gorgeous and sumptuous and many. Look at where there are lots of different things you could have, and you enjoy making an empowered choice between those things. And you get a lot of sovereignty from making an empowered choice of which one you're going to choose and which one you're going to spend your time on. There's a sense of freedom in that. And there's a sense of such, I guess it's like a majestic sense of autonomy in that, like, you know what, I am my own royalty right now. I get to decide. I get to choose. What do I choose for myself? And take a moment to be excited as you make that choice. I do that every time I choose what I'm going to read next, you know. I do that every time I manage to deal with the problem that came up in the last card and actually harness my fire and choose what are my priorities. And I really love it when I choose to do something difficult or something not that desirable, and then choose afterwards to do something that I'm really enjoying. Like today, I chose to do some chores that I've been avoiding for a while. And I was like, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to sit down, I'm going to film Tea and Tarot. After that, I'm going to see my clients. And then after that, I'm going to do something for me. I'm going to relax in front of a film. I'm going to, you know, like there's these choices, these sumptuous choices that we make. And yes, there are responsibilities in that. There are chores for me today. There are client calls for me today. But I've also chosen other things as well. And I think that's part of having an empowered life, is making choices instead of realizing, oh, I've reached the end of the day and I don't think I made that many conscious choices about good things to have or lovely things to do. ago, I think I just let time sweep me off. I don't really know that I was that consciously in control of what it is I wanted to do, you know, or wear or eat or say or not say. So when we are conscious about the fact that we have choices, we also can reach the end of the day and think, I made some choices. I consciously chose, and I went through with whatever I chose, for better or worse. It was me. I am the, you know, the ruler of my own life, as it were. Okay, my darlings, let me have a little tea break now, I think. Oh, that is lovely. You don't need tarot to tell you that one way to make your life a bit fizzier and more magical is to drink tea on the reg. Absolutely gorgeous. I do a Sip Tea with Me live stream every single month on my Patreon, and we all sip tea together and just have a little chat. And one thing that I love doing is asking everybody what's in your cup this time. And so I've learned some very interesting tea blends from those discussions. There's some tea blends out there and some tea companies out there that I never knew of that I've learned through my patrons. So, okay, let's have a look. What is the final card to give us some advice on how to have an enchanting, fizzy, magical life? The card that's come through is 8 of Coins, aka 8 of Pentacles. This is a beautiful card, 8 of Coins. What a really great one to end things on today. And I'll show you the cutaway right now, and you can see those really, really beautiful hand-hammered coins there in that card. I'm going to read from the book. It says, in 8 of Coins, we see the fulfillment and skill inherent to the hair braiding tradition. Elders are usually responsible for grooming, while the younger generations act as apprentices, taking time to watch, learn, and practice. Here we see a young woman maturing with focus and determination to honor the tradition passed on to her. And it says that the coins are representative of different hair adornments that you can find in the hair braiding tradition. So very, very beautiful meaning there with this card. And I think it's really interesting because when it comes to making your life more fizzy and sumptuous and enchanting, we wouldn't often naturally think of 8 of Coins, because 8 of Coins usually looks like a lot of hard work, a lot of productivity, a lot of putting your nose to the grindstone and really going for it and like pushing yourself. Basically, it looks like work that is being done diligently and in a really committed way. And so very often I don't think it would be a natural choice, but I love that it's come up because I think it's really about I think, the competition that can take place in life between who we are today and who we were yesterday in terms of what we're trying to achieve. And I don't think it necessarily has to do always with our particular course of study or the particular job that we do, the way that we make money in this world. I think that 8 of Coins is a more expansive card than that. We can look at it and just simply look at whatever it is that we put our energy into. It can be our parenting. It can be, you know, really the role that we play in community. It can be whatever issues we're trying to deal with and shadow work through and use our spiritual tools to solve. It can be about any number of different things. It can be about our relationship with our home, our relationship with our money, the way that we want to make improvements that would only be gained through doing things in a consistent way where we keep turning up and we keep applying whatever it is that our training is, whatever it is that we understand to be the right thing to do to get the result that we desire. So yes, sometimes it is about making work more sumptuous, actually our work in our place of work, right, or our place of study. Sometimes it is about that. It's about making that a more sumptuous experience by showing up, working diligently, you know, really applying ourselves, not sort of checking out, not leaving things till the last minute for deadlines and stuff like that. It can be about really being present with our work or study. But I think more broadly, it's about being present and committed whenever we're trying to achieve anything that requires consistency, practice, focus, and ongoing commitment. And I think those things can really make life as fizzy and as enchanting as it's possible for life to be, because then we can see ourselves taking action over time, over and over, taking an action, taking an action, taking an action. And we see that that leads to achievement. It leads to knowledge. It leads to strength. You know, if you think of 8 of coins in terms of starting to lift weights, for example, right? You've never lifted weights before. You learn about posture. You figure out what weight you can start with, right? But really, you're right at the beginning of the journey of lifting weights. 8 of coins for you would be showing up regularly, doing weightlifting at home and at the gym if you want to, learning more about weightlifting, going up a weight class as you slowly keep coming to it, keep working on it, feeling your biceps and your triceps and your pectoral muscles getting stronger, feeling yourself more able to lift the weight, knowing that your body is changing, feeling that your mindset is changing through seeing what you can do with your body, getting excited when you can finally open that tough jar of pickles, or you can finally lift more boxes or whatever it might be, realizing that you actually have the strength, that your muscles are growing and you're walking further than you did before, or you're playing your team sport or running around with your kids, or walking your dog longer and harder than you did before, and you're thinking, my body is getting stronger, I'm really applying myself here consistently and I'm seeing the payoff, I feel different, I look different. This is actually working. That's the joy of 8 of coins. That's what is really the joy. It's learning, applying the learning, seeing the result and saying, I did that shit. I did that shit. I claim that effort and the result that came from it. Look at me go. And I think it's almost about having an out of body experience. A few times when I was writing my book in the last few months, it goes to print, by the way, on June 10th. A few times in the last few months when I was really going for it, I was doing that word count. I was applying myself. That's one area where I would say I was applying myself quite a bit. Although there was still a few days where I definitely, did not do what I was supposed to be doing there. But as I was writing my book, sometimes when I was in the middle of a really good writing session, I would have an out of body experience, not like literally, but in a sort of emotional way, where it was almost like I was standing behind myself, watching myself killing it and thinking, you're fucking doing it. You're writing this book, baby. You're doing it. Look at you do it. And I often have that same feeling whenever I go to the gym, because for me, going to the gym is not always about motivation. I'm not always motivated. What I am is disciplined when I'm going to the gym. Sometimes I'm very motivated, but sometimes I really don't want to go. I'd rather be anywhere else. But I know I need to do it because of my body, my back injury and everything. I have to make sure I keep the core strong. And so for me, I don't wait around for motivation. I can't afford to. I need to be moving my body around. And so instead, what I do is I rely on discipline. I rely on the fact that I made that committed decision. And when I'm in the gym and I'm doing my thing and I'm really going for it, I also have that same feeling that I'm watching myself doing it and thinking, wow, you really could have chosen not to do this. You do not have to be consistent with this. No one is making you be consistent with this. You are a fully grown fucking adult. And if you don't want to do this, you don't have to. And no one's going to make you. But you have chosen to live by that code of discipline. You've chosen for yourself that this is the best thing and the right thing for you. And you got over that lack of motivation and you did it anyway. And that is so joyous. There is very few things in my life more sumptuous than that. At looking at how I'm applying myself and saying, wow, you know what? I didn't have to, but I did. And I'm proud of myself. I think that's part of 8 of coins for me, is that pride that we take in the work that we're doing, the thing that we're trying to achieve, and the feeling that we're watching it come together. And it's so glorious, isn't it? I love that feeling. If you're listening to this right now and you're thinking, I haven't had that feeling for a while, I want that feeling. I haven't really had that sense that there's been some consistency and it's led to something that I can actually see. I can witness that I'm getting stronger with that subject that I want to learn. I can witness that I'm getting better at that crafting skill that I want, whatever it happens to be. If you possibly can, start right now while you're watching this video. Go and get those books that you're supposed to be studying. Go and start that decluttering. Do it right now while I'm talking to you. I mean it. If you possibly can, you might not be able to, but even so, even if you can't right now, start doing something. Start doing anything. Start doing your dishes if you have dishes to do. Start doing that thing that you've been putting off, Go to it right now and start it while I'm talking to you. I want to know in the comments who did this. I hope some of you are right now moving into action with whatever it is you have been meaning to do. If it's emails, if it's getting back to people, whatever it happens to be, start doing something, make a dent in it, you know? And yes, make that commitment that this is not going to be the first time that you're going to do this for the week or the month or whatever. You are going to keep coming to it. But for right now, just move yourself into some form of action that you know you're going to be pleased with and proud with, that you know you're going to look at and say, you know what, earlier when I was watching that Kellyanne Maddox video, I definitely had the option to not do that, to not follow that advice and not start this thing. But actually I did. I heeded the call. Something in my spirit said, that advice is for me. I'm going to now start doing something. I'm going to go to that surface in my home that I know is full of stuff that I know I need to do. I'm going to go and do my recycling and put it out. Or like, yeah, I knew that I needed to do this thing. And I listened to that video, and in the course of that video, there was a moment where I had a choice and I made the choice to do. I decided to get my yoga mat out. Whatever it happens to be, you decided to do it in this moment while I'm talking. And that is something to feel so proud of. And even if it's not the best session of whatever it is, or even if you don't entirely finish it before you've got to go to bed or whatever, the credit that you can give yourself comes from going into that first step of 8 of coins, which is to begin something that you will be able to look at and say, that happened because I began. That happened because I made the choice to do it. It was only through my making the decision, making the commitment and coming to it that it got fucking done. And I love myself for that. I can at least appreciate myself for that. I can at least look at that and say, yes, I did it. What a fucking legend I am. 10 of coins is very often about practice. It's about coming to something and repeating the process, or going back through it, you know, revising it, reviewing it, looking at it and saying, okay, I'm going to keep doing this so I can get better at it. You know, if you're learning to do some kind of crafting skill, you're going to want to keep practicing the same thing. You're going to keep trying to thread the thing through the beads. You're going to keep trying to, you know, do your candle making or whatever it is. It's going to be fiddly at first. It's going to be annoying at first, and then you're going to nail it. Right? If you are trying out something in the gym or at home, you know, you're doing a yoga position, you're using the rowing machine, and you're practicing form, you're practicing, you know, regularity of the movement. Maybe with yoga, you're practicing with your breathing, anything like that, anything where you're going to keep coming to it and you're going to keep doing it. 8 of coins is really about that practice and repetition. And there's a lot of flow in that state. It's annoying at first. It's definitely annoying at first until you get that groove in the wood. And once you get the groove in the wood, you're like, oh, there we go. It's happening, you know? When somebody first starts learning to knit, they don't just suddenly start knitting a fabulous scarf or whatever. It's irritating. They're like, oh God, drop one, do what? Oh God, I can't, you know? And 8 of coins is that process of saying, no, I'm going to keep trying this. I don't remember yet how to conjugate those verbs in that language, but I will. I don't remember how to do this yet on this instrument, but I will. You know, so when you feel that frustration, think of it as divine frustration. It is your supreme challenge that you've chosen. And when you feel frustrated and you fuck something up, or you don't understand how to do something, in that moment when you're like, oh, furious, stop and think, this is divine. This is divine. Like, this feeling that I don't know and I'm not strong enough yet and I'm not where I want to be is divine. I'm not going to rush it. I'm not going to try and push through it and get to the other side. I'm going to enjoy this confusion, you know? I really have had that so often with like practicing my baron, my Irish drum, you know, learning Russian and now like relearning a bit of Russian because I'm rusty as hell, darlings. That feeling of like, oh God, what is this? I know this. I learned this last week. Oh, I'm going to have to go through it again. Oh, this is so frustrating. How do you do it again? How do you do it? When you are in that feeling, instead of hating it, think of it as one of the fizziest parts of your life. Because it shows that you are engaged, you are alive, you want something, and you're going towards it. And it's only because of those moments of frustration that experience can be possible at all. Darlings, thank you so much for coming to this Tea and Tarot episode. I hope it gave you something. Let me know in the comments, what did it give you? What have you been thinking and feeling as you're watching this episode? And I hope also for anyone who's learning cards that this has given you some ideas about these 3 glorious faces of the 78 card tarot deck. I am always so privileged to be able to read tarot and use tarot to give you any kind of medicine that I can. Thank you for giving me that opportunity. I appreciate you so much. Don't forget there is a sale on. Go down and click, have a little look. Don't forget I have a Patreon. I do amazing exclusive things on there every single month. So again, come and have a look, be part of the Patreon fam. Much love until next time, my darlings. Keep card slinging and blessed be. Mwah!